I want to bring up Carlos Levexier to close us out on this panel portion. Los has his own unique story and his own unique approach to meeting the challenge of dealing with very deep trauma because of street politics and governmental politics. Los, I know you just got out of a class right now, but if you want to introduce yourself for the record, talk a little bit about your background and ideas on strategies for addressing youth that are impacted by the justice system.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carlos Levexier. I'm from San Francisco, and I have some really deep stories in terms of that. It's like my mother had her children when she was 14, her first child when she was 14, because she had a heart problem that she could have been dead. So she kept having babies, 14, 16, I was like 18, 20, 22. But she was a heck of an educated lady, and she was a nurse, and she kept going to school until she was a master's and a nurse practitioner. And she went to Alabama to help the urban Black kids in that environment, but she had too much spunk. So they called the police on her at a flower shop, and they took her to jail. And then that night she died. You know what I mean? She never made it out of that jail for one night over somebody making a call. But the thing is in terms of hip hop, I grew up in San Francisco with all of the rebelliousness, with all of the changes in the world that we see today, that kind of ushered in all the diversity that right now, smashes, through. They call it a Democrats in power, but then there's a San Francisco Democrat, and the San Francisco Democrats have, major influence. So the thing is I came in, I went to school at San Francisco State. I was a wrestler. I used to do dance and stuff with Lonnie Green and all of that. But then I went to wrestling. And when I went to wrestling, I went undefeated in San Francisco every year, never lost to nobody in San Francisco. Then I went to San Francisco State, and I was a state champion in that, and an NCAA finalist, and an All-American. And then I, bought a house at a young age, a big building in Fillmore. So I had all the people that used to come to my spot. And I had a brother, my brother-in-law, his name is Mac Minister. And so I got him out of YA and picked him up and brought him to my house, brought him all of that stuff. E40 was doing a photo shoot at my guy's house, which is Cable Conte. He used to be part of the independent film movement. Now he owns Red Bay Coffee, independent photography of the whole region. So he went in there, and I brought him there, and E40 started listening to him talk all of his stuff. And he was like, man, how much would it cost me to put some of that on my album, Hall of Game? And he was like, man, I wouldn't charge you nothing, man. Really, with my experience, really, I'm just trying to get to Pac, because he gonna understand what I'm talking about from where we from. So you could just introduce me to Pac, and I don't charge you nothing. And so E40, we didn't hear about him. He went to New York, and he was recording in his album. And then when he was recording his album, he called my house, called my phone. He asked Chop to spit it right there over the phone. It was a cordless phone, so you could hear a little bit of a static. And I'm amazed that that was all the static. So he did that first recording, so the Mac 10 Commandments off of my phone. And then E40 put it right after Pac's song, Million Dollar Spot. And then what happened was it's the business, because E40 started saying, hey man, just blow smoke in my sails. He didn't know who he was even dealing with. So when he started doing that, Chop, you cannot bottle him up like that, Mac Minister. So anyway, all of that happened with that. Right now, I got a whole bunch of family members that do music. I think Raphael, you probably know him, WAP. He does some stuff, real conscious stuff. Better beat the odds, I better beat the odds. With all of that story, I'm just gonna go into stuff that I'm doing right now. I got a lot of, I had a son that got killed. I got a lot of nephews that was in a big war. All that happened. I'm a teacher at Mission High School right now. And what I've been doing is my wrestling. See, wrestling is the martial arts that is not a martial art, it's a civil art. It's a civil because I didn't strike you. I go all the way back from like 4,000 years ago to places where they just documented specifically archaeologically same moves that we were doing now 4,000 years ago, the exact same moves. All humans and all mammals evolved from wrestling. So right now, when you put kids in classes and you got their desks next to them, you already was social distancing before the pandemic, because naturally mammals get in a litter, and that's how they learn, even before they could walk, what their strength is. So there is already an ancestral mismatch when you take that out, and they took that out for racist reasons. Who wants to let a kid that you're trying to oppress how to wrestle? You. So they kept that for themselves. Babe Ruth, everybody, all of them wrestled, but they didn't want urban. They had wrestling in suburban areas, but not urban areas. So we don't have the culture by design. The year before the pandemic, Fresno scored the highest for African-American kids. How? Why? Fresno don't have what? They don't score the best in nothing. Why did they score the best for African-American kids? That's because 50 years ago, their next door neighbor had a superintendent called Doc Buchanan who put wrestling in every elementary school in Clovis. That cuts out all of the bullying. Now, if you come in as an elementary kid, and you like, okay, weigh in. Oh, I don't want to wrestle him over there. Well, oh, you're not with this? Okay, you can go to art or something like that, but you can't act tough because now we know you don't want that, right? So it puts a filter on it. And so that's why Fresno next door, they do the best from African-American kids, because they get filtered to say, do you want this or you want that? Don't act tough all through junior high and all through, you can go concentrate on your academics. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna get exposed. Now, all of a sudden, let's switch all the way to the teachers. Right now, with all of the politics, they talking about, school shooters, shut the door. So I went to a meeting and they said, okay, now for teachers, we're gonna give you a different protocol. And that protocol is run, hide, or fight when it's a problem. You know what I mean? And so the teachers is going, what? We never been told to fight till 2021. So now I'm like, okay, y'all need a PD, a professional development on basic wrestling, because wrestling dominates the MMA and the UFC. You know what I mean? The wrestlers, because they control where the fight is. If you're a good striker, you're going on the ground. If you're good at jiu-jitsu, you want to be down there, you stand on your feet. We the middle. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is that protocol and all of the stuff that we're talking about in the schools needs to be a statewide protocol with regard to filtering out the faking, the fakers, the people that's just fronting. I was just fronting, like the song said. Yeah, I know you was just fronting, so you could cut that out. You know what I mean? We have to cut that out. You know what I mean? Using that same process. Go look at the bullying in the toughest places that have all of the wrestling in elementary schools. The bully don't want to be there because the faking ain't gonna work. So anyway, I'm not gonna take too much time because we got a time deficit. I just want to introduce myself, tell that message, and thank you guys for allowing me to be here with you.